Well guys, I've been wanting to put this video together for quite a while now, and today I'm finally going to get to introduce to you guys the new truck for the channel. Now, we're going to be going over all of the plans, all the upgrades and modifications it already has, and also all the plans for it all throughout this video. We're also going to be putting the camera on my head and driving it while we talk about it, and I'm also going to show you guys around, like I said before, some of the things that have already been done to it, and I'm going to kind of get up under the truck a little bit and show you guys what's going on underneath. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. And I'm going to go ahead and hop out so you guys can see what all is done to this thing. Now, there's no steps on it right now, so it's a little bit, I mean, it's not super high, but let me go ahead and hop right out. But as you can see, this thing has quite a few upgrades done to it already. Now, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get the camera in here so you guys can see sort of what's going on, and I may take it off my head in a little while, but we've got 37-inch BFG KO2s on this truck. They're not exactly brand new, but they do have a little bit of life left in them. We have some 17-inch OE TRD wheels, and I'm really liking the fact that I've got a really thick, beefy sidewall. The lift is interesting. So it's a ready lift kit up front with the upgraded Bilstein coilovers with independent reservoirs, and then in the back, if you can kind of see, and I'll kind of try to get down here where you guys can see, there's a set of these BDS suspension recoil traction bars, and I looked these up and they seemed like really nice traction bars, actually. Really, really nice. They look really beefy. The mounting points look really, really beefy, and hopefully these hold up well in the long term. Now, as far as the truck itself goes, I mean, it's honestly a lot bigger in person than I thought it was going to be. It really, really is. I need to get a drop hitch for it as well so I can tow the BRZ to the track and things like that. I'm also going to show you guys up underneath. In the front, there's that ready lift drop bracket, and this sway bar drop bracket is like, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Now, I kind of want to figure out a way to make some sort of disconnect kit for this, but as you can see, this bracket system makes it so that your CV angles are not, you know, all over the place and wonky, but you can also get kind of a nice bottom view of the coilovers from right here, and it really does seem to be a well put together kit. Now, I didn't really know all that much about the ReadyLift company and the ReadyLift suspension setup as a whole, but I did a little bit of research, and it definitely seems like it's not a bad kit whatsoever. So let's go ahead and get back in, and I'm going to put you guys back on my head, and then we're going to drive it, and I'm going to take you guys through some of my plans for this truck and the kind of content that we have on the way. Also, interesting little side note here, there's this sticker here in the door that I don't know how well you guys can see it or how much you can make out of it, but it says, "Caution, load carrying capacity reduced by 45 pounds due to modifications." It's just an odd sticker, and like, some of you guys may be like, oh, I've seen one of those before. I haven't really seen one of those before, but when I was poking around everything, I noticed that little sticker right there, and I was like, interesting, like, 45 pounds exactly? Like, how did they... I'm sure they figured out some kind of way to get to that number, but either way, let's go ahead and get in and drive it and actually go over some of my plans for it as well. But later on down the road, I can't decide, or at least I haven't decided yet, whether or not I want to do kind of a step setup or a rock slider setup. I'll definitely figure that out, and I would love to hear some thoughts and opinions from you guys in the comments down below about that. But what's interesting is also, like, just today, my tire pressure light came on, and so I went around with a gauge and checked everything, and everything seemed fine. Literally, all of my pressures seemed fine. I have a little plug-in, like, little tiny plug-in air compressor in the back with a gauge, obviously, so in case there's anything wrong, I can check it and add air if I need to, but I don't know if that's just something to do with, like, it could be the spare as well. And coffee. All right, let's go ahead and go for a little drive. Let's see, make sure there's nobody coming. Also, check this out. Now, I'm sure some of you guys out there, if you're a Tundra guy, you'll know about this, but check this out. See that back window? All the way down, and it's super fast. It's way faster up and down than I thought it was going to be, and it's literally the entire back glass. Also, that rear tint is like super dark, so as far as I'm aware, at least where I live, I think the tint restrictions are only for the front windows and not necessarily the rear, but if I get pulled over for tint, we'll see if that's actually the case. All right, so setting off, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about here. One is I love the way the BFG KO2s actually do on the road. Now, I know they're a 37, and I was kind of expecting the road manners to be a little bit iffy, because if I remember and go back to when I had my lifted Dodge, my Ram 2500, that thing was on 35s and had way worse road manners than this thing does on 37s. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is the transmission, because, well, the transmission and the speedometer and all that stuff, kind of want to talk about that as a whole. Now, I'm going to end up reprogramming the speedometer and the transmission tuning, because there's kind of a weird, I wouldn't say a discrepancy, but you can tell that the transmission is still working as it would expect for stock tires, and not necessarily as it would expect for a 37-inch tire. So with that being said, some of the shift points are a little iffy, and I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate something to you guys real quick that, oh, you guys will hear it. Let me cut the wheel. There it is. There's the rub. Now, I'll tell you exactly what that rub is. So, a lot of people know about, in terms of Tundras anyway, you know, when you go for a bigger tire, there's the body mount chop that a lot of people do. Ironically enough, that is not rubbing on the body mount. That is rubbing on the bottom corner of the front bumper, which is thankfully pretty easy to fix. So really, in the long term, what I would like to do up front is put a Baja style bumper up there, and that should fix that up pretty nicely. We shouldn't have any more issues with contact there. But for now, what I'm probably gonna end up doing is I'm probably gonna shave the underside corners of the front bumper to try to get a little bit more of that clearance when I'm making tighter turns. Now, a couple of tech specs about this particular truck. This one has the factory 4.3 axle ratio, which is kind of nice because it's going to be a little bit easier to turn the bigger tires. But the only thing with that is the fact that when you're running a 37, you kind of want something over a, you know, like 5 in terms of an axle ratio. I think, what is it, like 538 or something like that you can get for these trucks. I was looking into differential re-gears and differential, you know, gear sets and stuff like that, gear ratios, and I think it's like a 538 or something like that is what you can get. Now, I'll need to do some more research before I end up changing out the gears on this truck, but changing out the gears should also really, really help in terms of giving it that sense of urgency that it had on the standard tire size. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go full, you know, crazy off-roader with this truck, but I am going to do a fairly decent overland build. Now, what that's probably going to entail is bumpers, lights, maybe a tent setup on the back. It's already got a decent amount of suspension, and I just want to make sure that I have the strength to actually use that suspension off-road, like make sure the suspension is actually going to hold up to mild to moderate trails. Now, I want to make a sway bar disconnect system, and I'm sure that I can, you know, replace that bottom bolt with a pin or something like that, so that I can basically pull the pin out and have a little bit more articulation off-road. But I will say, in terms of the front suspension, because this is my first IFS truck, I want to make sure that I don't stress out those upper control arms and ball joints too much, because I know that it's very easy to max out the angle of those stock arms, especially on Tundras. And so I know that there are multiple companies that make upper control arm kits that are designed to be stronger, they're designed to be beefier, and they're also designed to have a lot more solid upper ball joints. So I'm definitely looking into a couple of different companies that make those. I know Camberg Racing makes a kit. I know Dirt King Suspension makes a kit. I know that there are multiple reputable companies out there that make Toyota suspension parts that will have solutions for that upper control arm. So not really too concerned about that. I'm sure I can find an option for that. But if you guys have any suggestions for upper control arms or upgraded, beefed up upper control arms to look for this truck to kind of handle that, basically handle the stress of off-roading better, let me know any and all suggestions that you have in the comment section down below. So as you can see, a lot of the logos are already blacked out, and then the TRD logo is blacked out, the rear taillights have been tinted, the 4x4 badge has been tinted, so at the end of the day, I feel like it only makes sense. Oh, we got traffic. We got a lot of traffic. Oh, there's another Tundra. But the lenses, actually, the back of the lenses of the headlights have also been blacked out, and so I'm kind of in the mindset of wanting to get rid of this chrome. I don't know about this because this is more of like a silver. Now, I kind of want to do that more TRD Pro style grille that says just Toyota across the front rather than the big Toyota logo, but I'm kind of back and forth on that right now. And then, of course, you have the chrome pieces down here around the fog lights as well. So I'm kind of, like I said before, wanting to do a little bit of a chrome delete, but let me know once again in the comment section down below what you guys think of that idea and how you guys think it would suit the truck. And I really picked a great place to do this walk around, didn't I? There's a lot of traffic. I mean, the lighting is really cool because you've got these cool shadows on the truck, and it's actually really clean right now, apart from, like, you know, a couple of little spots. Something else that I wanted to show you guys is how much space there is in the back. It is gigantic in the back. I mean, it's like SUV amounts of space in the back. There's my little, like, mini air pump. But the ridiculous amount of space here in the back is just, like, absolutely next level and way more than I was expecting when I first went to look at it. I mean, I'm used to there being probably, instead of the seats being here, I'm used to them being like here in trucks. I mean, and that's kind of what you get in a lot of trucks, apart from, you know, the only other thing that I've been in terms of like the rear seat of a truck that's had this much space, sorry about the wind noise from the traffic, but the only other truck I've really been in that's had this much rear seat space is a Dodge Mega Cab, and that's kind of in a class of its own in terms of back seat space. So really, at the end of the day, I mean, that is a tremendous amount of space in the back. I mean, you could technically like camp in here. You really could. And speaking of camping, I eventually do want to do an overland rack with a tent on top of it up here in the bed as well, but that's a little bit later on down the road, and I do think the bed actually is about the perfect size for it though. But let's go ahead and close this up, and we're going to go ahead and finish up this initial first drive video. Also, before the video finishes, there's a little tiny, and I don't know if you guys can really see it, but there's a little tiny knob right here to the left of the traction control button. So there's tow haul, traction control, and there's a little knob right here. Currently, that little knob doesn't do anything at all, but it did do something when I was on the test drive before I bought this truck. But then when I went to pick it up, now it doesn't do anything anymore. Now, I'm gonna save that for a future video because it is a wild and ridiculous story, but leave your guesses in the comment section down below as to what you think that tiny little knob does. But if you guys enjoyed this introduction to my new Toyota Tundra channel project, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you wanna follow along with it, make sure you're subscribed and you have those notifications turned on. That's gonna do it for this video, guys, and like I said before, we're gonna get this thing off-road and in the dirt really, really soon, and I will see y'all there.